Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you enjoy these episodes, help support this podcast by becoming a Patreon. Sign up at www.patreon.com/Brew and Inc. Your support will help our team to continue to produce great content like this. Also, check out our syndication page, SeriousWriter.com. Do you want to be a serious writer? At SeriousWriter.com, you'll find videos, topics, classes, resources, and a podcast, the Brew and Inc. podcast. We thank you for being a faithful listener, and now, on with the show. All right, and welcome everyone back to another Brew and Inc. episode. It is November. We have gone through October. Somehow that happened. Halloween happened. I mean, it was a fun month. The Braves won the World Series. Hey,
Booyah.
Booyah. But yeah, October flew by.
Yeah, it did.
And we're back here again. We've got another part of our story, Chapter 3, written by M.B. Mooney. But there's a lot been changing out there in the world of the internet and the way that we stay connected and stay together. There's a big kind of announcement. Facebook is going to be changing its name. It's going to be changing the name to Meta, which is kind of meta, I guess. I don't know exactly why they chose that, other than I know what they're trying to do is build more of a what they call like Web 3.0, this whole different sphere of how people interact with each other online. It's going to involve a lot of AR, augmented reality with VR and social media. And Facebook's trying to like kind of conglomerate all those together to be this new meta online experience, which it's interesting. I'm a little bit hesitant. Like a lot of people were already borderline. Do I still use Facebook? Do I not? I was just talking with my mom about this, and my mom, I feel like, is that generation that's like locked into Facebook right now. And she's like, family doesn't really use it. She's like, I don't really know what I think about it anymore. I don't really get on it much anymore. And it makes you think as a writer and someone that promotes your stuff, even as a podcaster. Instagram and Facebook have been where we share a lot of our stuff and try and get readers and followers and things like that. So with the whole name change and change of kind of what they're doing, it brings up the question, is this the way to keep trending? Is this going to be better for people to get connected, to people to get noticed if you're trying to promote your stuff? Or are there better avenues out there? I know one of the things that a lot of people didn't really trust with Facebook was all the ways that they were kind of getting your information, gathering stuff to identify people. And that's one of the things they're changing when they switch to Meta. They said I don't know if they're getting rid of, but they're doing away with, whatever that means, or reducing the use of their facial recognition software. So I guess they're trying to become more of a trustworthy source in people's eyes, if you will. Because I know that was really a sticky point for a lot of people. Like they didn't want to be, facial recognition, all my information's out there, and can I get hacked? Because I know tons of people that have been hacked through Facebook, and the next thing you know, people are trying to run their credit cards and things like that, and it's not good.
That's not good. Yeah, I think that this is kind of a jump the shark moment for Facebook, in my opinion. This is my hot take, and while I work in marketing and I know a lot of people in marketing and we have these conversations a lot, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not some sort of prophet as if like I know what's going to happen.
Right.
But my hot take on the whole Facebook thing is they aren't addressing the issues that are making people skeptical. One of it is the control of information. Facebook will only double down on that. Facebook isn't backing off. They're not going to back off on fact checking and not canceling people, but silencing people. And they're not going to back off of that. With the whole whistleblower thing that happened in the news, I forget her name, but a few weeks ago, it's all part of just the movement towards more looking at information and more kind of trying to, sift through and make sure that they share the right information that they think should be shared. And so they're not really addressing that. And the other issue is that Facebook is dying for a couple of different reasons. But one of the reasons is because it is a pay-to-play platform. And none of that is going to change. They're not going to give up money. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're not doing this to make less money, right? They're doing all this because they want to make more money. They bought Instagram. Instagram is moving to a pay-to-play platform as well. It's not there yet, but it's moving that way. And so really, Facebook and Instagram are really not a good way to promote yourself. Facebook in the beginning was, but I have 10,000, 11,000 people on one of my Facebook pages one of them that I kind of run or I'm a part of, and I can post something and 20 people see it. You know what I mean? Like in order for even your own fans to see your stuff, you're going to have to pay money, and that's only getting worse or better. It's only going further down that path.
Yeah,
it's only increasing, and Instagram is doing that as well. If you've been around Instagram in the last couple of years, you have seen less and less people engage in your posts. Instagram is pushing more video. Instagram made an announcement a few months ago. I don't know if you got the announcement, but
I remember. Yeah,
but they made the announcement that we're no longer a photo platform.
Yeah, we're focusing on video.
We're focusing on video. So for authors, Facebook and Instagram and social media in general is a great way to engage people and keep in touch with people. And there's certain things you can do on social media, but it's definitely not a promotional thing because people are less and less trusting of Facebook and now Instagram because they're the same company. And so therefore, that's just not the way it's going. And if you do things on social media, you should, and you want it to be seen, more likely you should do stuff on video. You should do stuff with video. But you don't have to. There are plenty of people out there who are selling books and they're not on social media. So, TikTok is going to pass both of them by. And that's why because of the popularity of TikTok, just as an informational thing, that's why you start to see reels more on Instagram. That's why they're pushing video, and that's why Facebook is pushing video. Now they've got their own reels on Facebook, right? They're
YouTube.
And YouTube is doing it too. YouTube can still be a great way to build an audience, especially if you bring people value. YouTube is just going to grow. And so for authors or anybody who's trying to build a business or something, YouTube can be a great avenue. But I was in a class a couple weeks ago at a writing conference, and the guy doing the writing conference was like, he was kind of poo-pooing social media, and he said, if you want to impress people, right? If you want to impress publishers or whatever, you want to impress people, he said the two things that you should look at are email lists and start a podcast. He literally said start a podcast.
There you go.
And so of course then when he found out I have a podcast, we kind of talked about it in the class, and then I told him, I said YouTube, have a YouTube channel would also be. He said yes, that's another way. So this is for people interested in and here's the thing that authors are having to transition is, unless you are a big name, you have to find a way to promote yourself. Even if you are published, there's Barnes and Noble in some places, and every other bookstore is closed, and local bookstores are struggling. if they're around. So, I'm talking like the local independent bookstores. And so if you want to, if you want to sell books, like even the big publishers are expecting an author, an author to be able to market themselves somehow. So whatever that is, then authors don't like it and they hate it because the old way used to be, I write a book, nobody knows who I am,
Right.
and the publisher,
Promote you.
they promote you.
They
Put
get
you in
you
books. Yeah,
notoriety.
they put you in bookstores. They have all the connections. They put you in bookstores. They put you in libraries. Um, but publishers they're behind the curve. They don't know what to do online. They don't know, right? They can put it up on Amazon just like anybody can. But you know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of upheaval going on, but really it's all about connecting. And like I keep saying on here, when we talk about social media or marketing or whatever, that it's about people getting to know you. It's the reason why when people really like a book, they go to the back of the book and they look at, the bio of the author.
The author blurb. Yeah.
The author blurb. We want to know who created the stuff we love. Like if there's a movie or if there's a whatever, we want to know the director and the writers, and we want to know, like, oh, this is the same director for these other movies and whatever. Like, we want to know that stuff because that's just kind of how we are. We want to know the people behind what we enjoy.
Sometimes you're curious. You're like, oh, I really like this, and I really like this, and then you find out, oh, it's done by the same guy. Well, duh. Well, now I should follow this guy because he does things that I like.
Well, and that's why when they do trailers for movies, right? What do they say? From the same people who brought you, because like, oh, well, we like that, but of course it could possibly stink, but right, you're more likely to go, oh, I liked that, it's and so people, so that's what you should try to do, however you do it. And but I just thought it was interesting that the guy, and he's he's done stuff, pretty big time as an agent and author himself. And I just thought it was interesting that he was up there not pushing social media. He was pushing emails and podcasts.
Yeah. And the last course that I did at the end of Realm Makers was like an hour and a half long thing about like every single social media outlet out there and like giving the numbers and everything. And, email list was maybe a small little thing. And then podcast was like mentioned as like someone from the audience saying, oh, what about this? Like those two things weren't really even the main things. But it's because people have been very successful in the past like 5-6 years. About, Instagram was the thing to do. You could get a lot of notoriety on there and followers and things like that. But yeah, I think the changes are indicative of the fact that they're trying to get ahead and keep up with the changes in the way that people are responding to what their services offer.
Yeah, well, the power of podcasting is the same power, for the most part, of YouTube. Mm-hmm. Is you can be doing something else while you're listening, or you can be in the car, or you can be. You shouldn't watch YouTubes while you drive, okay? But
you can listen to them.
And my son, by the way, he's not in the room, but he would give me a hard time. I called them YouTubes. No, Dad, they're YouTube videos. They're not YouTubes. Anyway.
Well, at least you didn't say the YouTubes.
And I can wear my black socks with my sandals while I say it. So, and somebody asked me a couple weekends ago, because I was talking to people about podcasting, and they said, well, isn't podcasting saturated? I said, well, so is publishing. I mean, like if you're trying to get a book published, like how many books are there in the world? I mean, yes, but it's all about, it's the same sort of thing. Like, is it an original idea? Is it something that will connect with people and inspire people, and you'll find an audience?
Think about this. They're still publishing books by dead people. You're competing with people that are passed away with books.
Right.
So you were talking before we got on about maybe a new kind of social media thing that's kind of in the winds, if you will, on the horizon through Amazon, through the Kindle Vella, I believe it was called.
Yeah, it's happening. It started. It started, and it's
Yeah,
just in the United States for now. And it's called Kindle Vella, and it's kind of their answer to Wattpad. So, you do kind of pay a little bit to read, as you go. But the whole idea is, you put up a chapter and then and people like it. And if they, then they, they can be, notified when the next chapter launches, and then they can, kind of, they buy tokens. And then, so I don't know how successful it's going to be, but it's Amazon, and
right.
this is an early thing. And I'm just going to try it out. I'm going to put something on there, put something good on there, and I'm going to put something quality on there and see if it'll kind of gauge some interest, because I haven't been an early adopter to many things in my life because I was not raised to be an early adopter. My dad, like we didn't have a microwave for a long time, and all of my friends
Yeah,
had a microwave, and we didn't have a VCR. And then when we did get a VCR, we got a Betamax because
we
my
have
dad was
Betamax too.
my dad was like, that is what's going to make it because it's so high quality. And
Yeah.
then being a late adopter, my dad didn't buy a new VCR until like there were no places to rent Betamax videos anywhere in the Atlanta area anymore. And then he finally broke down and bought a VHS. All that to say
Yep.
is I was raised not to be an early adopter, but I think it's something interesting that if it's Amazon, they're going to push it, and they have such a market on the writing and books and that sort of thing that people are on there. That's where people go.
Yeah.
They want to get something, they want to check something out, all that sort of stuff. So we'll
Yep.
see.
So yeah, if you guys are interested, keep an eye out, ear out for things about those topics. You're going to see a lot of news articles coming out about those things, and just tune in.
Yeah, and more than likely, by the time this episode drops, the first episode of the first chapter of my Vela will be up. I'm going to try to put it up this weekend.
Ooh,
So maybe we'll put the link in the notes, in the
very
episode
cool.
notes.
Yeah, you guys can go try it out, see if you like that. The Vela. I think it'll be cool. I like the fact that it's got like writing mixed with interactivity, where you can make comments and stuff like that, kind of like Wattpad was doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
By the way, you mentioned trailers earlier. Have you seen the Mobius trailer?
I haven't seen the Mobius trailer yet.
Oh yeah, that was pretty good. I saw it this morning. I don't know when it came out, but it looks like it's going to be good, and they're tying it in to kind of the whole MCU, because he mentions Venom. The character is Venom by name, and in the background while he's walking around, you see posters of Spider-Man with like murderer spray painted on it. So it's like tying into, I mean, obviously, because he's one of Spider-Man's sort of enemies, and it looks like it's going to be good. And they're going off of playing with that whole like I don't know if you'd say chaotic good. He's supposed to be a good guy. He's a doctor, but then all of a sudden he can't walk very well, so he's looking for cures. I think he's got not polio, but he's got some sort of disease, and he's a doctor that's trying to heal other people with this thing, and he goes into the jungle to find a cure, and next thing you know, he's now a vampire.
He's a
And he's
vampire.
it's kind of like the Hulk thing where he's like fighting, this monster that's within. Um, so it's
Yeah.
like you're supposed to be good, you're supposed to protect people.
So back
Yeah.
in the olden days,
Mm,
long, long ago, back when I collected a lot more comic books. Every now and then I'll get one, but I don't collect them anymore. But
right.
they had this thing called, I think it was the Night Stalkers, and it was Mobius, and it was Blade. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
they're going to build that sort of dark adventures.
They are going to reboot Blade
They're
too.
rebooting Blade, and so I think they're going to do some of that sort of dark. I loved the comic book because I thought it was great that they had Blade on the same sort of team with a
With a
vampire.
vampire. Yes.
And they had to work together to anyway. So all that to say is I think that's where they're going, but there's so many great trailers. The Wheel of Time is coming out this month.
Yes.
And it looks amazing. I'm really excited for it. And Dune was great. Anyway, there's some great stuff coming out, and I'm excited.
Very cool. Well, speaking of great stuff coming out, we've got the next part of the chapter. So I say we jump right into that. Let's set it up though real quick. We just got out of having a sea battle with merfolk that attacked the ship Andromeda and her crew, and there were some wounded that were left over, and there was their healer that was left overboard. And
Poor
they have
Wallace.
to decide. I know, poor Wallace. They have to decide: are we going to go back and save Wallace, or are we going to try and get to the nearest port and try and save these wounded people? And you guys, our faithful listeners, voted that we need to go back and find the healer because it's your healer. You can't leave him behind. Don't leave the healer behind. And so that's where this story is picking up. They were fleeing kind of from where they were fighting, and all of a sudden they're like making. Well, we'll see what the decisions they make to go back and try and find and rescue Wallace the healer.
Chapter 3. To Save a Healer. The ship creaked and moaned through the aftermath of the battle. The wounded men groaned and cried out, the ones that were conscious, and Marines applied field dressings as they were able. Cray took a quick scan of those 6 men, a couple missing limbs and chunks bitten out of them. Not all would survive, no matter what they did. Tabitha sat against the thick mainmast, her head down, her hair over her eyes. Her chest heaved with labored breaths. Captain Levitt gave an exasperated sigh while she strode up to Ellis. "You want to leave Wallace in the ocean?" Ellis scowled. "I don't like it, but maybe." "Well, we have to make the decision fast," Levitt said. "Cray, thoughts?" Cray shook his head, trying to clear it after the mental strain of fighting the merfolk and Kopala. "We're gonna need a healer one way or another. And I don't want to leave anyone behind. Not a good way to start our journey." "If he's even alive," Ellis said, "if the merfolk didn't already drag him down." "The merfolk surprised us," Levitt added. "We'll be better prepared if they do attack again, but I don't think they will. It's worth it." Ellis blinked over a short moment, however long it felt. He gave a quick nod, lifted his head, and shouted, "Williamson turn! All available hands starboard. Life buoys ready." "Marines, weapons loaded," Levitt said. "Don't throw away those earplugs. We might need them once more." A dozen Marines leapt to load rifles and then pistols, scrambling to the railing on the starboard side. At the same time, another 10 sailors grabbed ropes, ladders, and 3 life buoys. Levitt ordered 10 Marines to the port side and then sent a handful each bow and stern. Cray also loaded his rifle and pistol while joining the Marines starboard. The ship leaned a bit through the classic Williamson turn to a return point, and Cray spread his feet to keep his balance on the slippery, slanted deck, his focus on his weapons. He made sure his own earplugs were in the palm of his hand. "Spread out," he told the Marines. "Keep your focus. Be ready." The Andromeda neared the return point and slowed, the sails flapping above Cray's head. His heart pounded in his chest while the ship surrendered speed to gather and rescue the healer, but that was the way of it. A man next to him, one of the crew, pointed off to the left and yelled, "There he is, Wallace!" Cray lifted his gaze from the rifle. Perhaps 50 yards away now, a sodden head bobbed through the water, waves hiding then revealing the man, Wallace, his arms now lifting and waving desperately. The healer cried out something Cray couldn't understand. Captain Ellis bellowed from behind Cray, "Get us close, quick. We don't want to stay here. Get those buoys ready." The turn and adjustment was expertly done between the man at the rudder and the crew at the sails. The Andromeda slammed into a wave large as a country hill. Spray lifted in the air and sent droplets over Cray and the men with him. Cray spit a bit of salt water from his lips with a flatulent sound, wiped his face. 4 crewmen came to the railing when the Andromeda drew near to Wallace, 2 holding horseshoe buoys and the other 2 holding tight to the attached ropes. The ship slammed through another swell, and once she settled, the 2 buoys were hurled through the air toward the healer, one landing way short and the other within a few yards. Wallace began swimming in the direction of the second life buoy, his arms flapping down and slapping the water. Cray's stomach clenched, trying to will the man to the floating lifeline. Cray's stare darted back and forth across the water, searching every dip and movement on the ocean. When Wallace's outstretched hand reached the buoy, Cray relaxed a little. Perhaps Levitt had been right. The creatures had enough fighting for the day. "Captain!" came a scream from the port side. "They're back!" Cray's head swiveled to regard the other side of the ship, all in time to see figures leaping out of the water, the screeching sounds of merfolk filling the air around them, a physical pain invading their ears. "Earplugs!" Levitt ordered, but she needn't have said it. The Marines were already applying them when she spoke, especially after the battle they just endured. A split second later, rifles roared out along the port side, cracks and booms like an avalanche of sound and smoke. Cray cursed and turned his attention back to starboard. "Get Wallace on board." 3 crewmen lined up one behind the other, all pulling the rope hand over hand, Wallace clinging to the other end in the ocean, his arm hooked through the horseshoe shape. Then, in a heartbeat, Wallace squealed and his body went under. The rope slid through the hands of the crewmen back out to sea, so fast like a whip, burning through the palms of the men that held it. Cray jumped and stepped on the rope while reaching for it with his left hand. Fortunately, others joined him, and soon 4 of them had a tight hold of the rope, which went taut. Even with the 4 of them yanking with all their might, it didn't budge. The deck was its own storm of chaos, rifles and pistols firing out into the water, Marines calling for crewmen to help them reload. Merfolk appeared along every side of the ship, and rifles spat slugs at the monstrous shapes. Levitt had chosen her Marines well. Ready this time, no merfolk got to the ship. Cray gritted his teeth and lifted his rifle with his right hand, aiming across his body, and fired once, hitting a flying mermaid in the belly. Its eyes and face contorted in pain, and it fell back into the water. Cray and the 3 men holding the rope suddenly fell backwards and crashed onto the deck, still holding the rope, and it took a moment for Cray to realize that the line had gone completely slack. He stumbled to his feet while 2 of the other 3 gathered the rope with urgency. With a final pull, the end of the rope and the buoy shot up from the water and plopped onto the deck, Wallace's arm still attached, but only his arm. The single, lonely appendage ended at the elbow with jagged, ripped, bloody flesh. Cray hissed and began to reload his rifle when another voice from the stern carried over the din and was muffled from the wax in Cray's ears. "Captain, shift off the stern, approaching fast." Grabbing the railing to steady himself, Cray stood as straight as he could and peered back behind the Andromeda. He blinked the wind out of his eyes, trying to get the make and shape of the boat, far away but closing with speed. Levitt sprung to the stern and lifted her short monocular to one eye, shutting the other. "She's Spanish, Captain," Levitt's muted voice said. Ellis said, "Come about." The whooping sound was faint but unmistakable. "Cannon!" someone yelled. Heads ducked, but not all. A few merfolk still tried to find their way onto the ship. The ordnance dropped 10 yards off port, water erupting into air. The diminished merfolk that remained gave up the attack, diving and slithering into the water without much to show for their second attempt. Well, except for Wallace. Ellis gave the order to turn again, since there was no cannon to the rear of the Andromeda, and the starboard was at a better angle to the Spanish ship. They tried to wheel about to get the enemy in their sights. "Load cannons," Ellis commanded. The crew bustled and hurried to comply, once again most of them already on the way. Their survival would depend upon it. The Andromeda turned in a wide arc. She had slowed through the Williamson turn by necessity, giving up her one advantage, so the maneuver took longer than it normally would. With the merfolk gone, Cray removed his earplugs, as did most of the other crew. Another whoop reached them, closer this time, louder, and a whistle. Cray's whole body tensed and he crouched. The ordnance sailed past them overhead and hit the water. They have our range, Ellis said. Get our cannons ready. The Andromeda swung wide, difficult to gain speed. The Spanish ship began firing more now that they shortened the distance between them, cannonballs hitting dangerously close. Another few seconds and the Andromeda's cannons would be in position. Would it be enough time? Levitt had come closer to Cray, still viewing the enemy through the monocular. Cray finished loading his rifle. Is it the ship we were sent after? The one with the ungulleted worm? She breathed through her teeth. Hard to tell. The way she's moving, I don't think they're carrying the dragon now. Another shot hit the water nearby and Cray cringed. She's coming from the same direction as Andalusia. We would have run headlong into her if we hadn't done the Williamson. Maybe they sold it. Levitt squinted at him like he had accused her. Her jaw tightened. It's the same class of ship. Not sure what they did with the dragon. She lowered the monocular. We'll ask them while they're sinking and begging for our help. If we ever get that far, Cray thought, but he didn't speak it. The Andromeda completed the turn and picked up speed. The cannons below him erupted, and he winced at the sound and shaking of the wooden deck. One of their shots hit the water close to the bow of the Spanish ship. The other ripped through the railing and across the deck, the screaming of men echoing across the distance while bodies were tossed in the air. The crew of the Andromeda cheered, but it only lasted a moment. One of the cannons from the Spanish ship fired, and the missile hit the side of the Andromeda at the stern, splinters of wood flying, her own crew now crying out. Cray and Levitt raced to the edge of the ship, hanging over the railing. The hole in the ship was above the waterline, but not comfortably so. Captain Ellis appeared next to them. Bloody hell, we need to pick up speed and make it to port. Levitt frowned at him. We're running? You have a better idea? Ellis said. We've hit them, damaged them, she answered, and that might be the ship we've been sent after. We can come around and finish them off. Or they finish us, Ellis said. We have wounded, more now that we've been hit, and no healer. Our ship is faster. If we turn wide in speed, they won't be able to catch us, and we can fight another day. Levitt's brow raised. We may not get another chance. If we turn and run, we lose them, and might never learn what they did with the dragon. Ellis bared his teeth and spun on Cray. Lieutenant, what say you? Should we take our chances and engage the Spanish now, or make to port to help our wounded and repair the ship?
Bum, bum, bum. Very nice. I like it. Yeah, so I like the choices here. It's kind of like you have another opportunity, faithful listeners. Are you going to turn and head to port like you didn't last time, or are we going to stay and fight? Because that seems to be our goal. It seems to be right here in front of us. This is what we came for. So I think this is very well-weighted decision there, because I would say neither one of those. I mean, as always, neither answer is the right answer, because we're gonna write whatever you guys choose. But I feel like they both hold validity as a good option.
Yeah, it was kind of not difficult, but it was kind of interesting going back, right? I'm like, okay, they're going back. What are we going to do? Like, how are we going to make it different? How are we going to either they fight the merfolk? Like, it's not very exciting if they just pick up the healer and keep moving. Like, I mean, like,
Right.
it's just like, what are we going to do? So, no, but it was fun. And I wanted to get us forward in the goal somehow, at least the option of getting forward towards the goal. So,
yeah. Now, they did rescue the healer's arm. Is there any use to that?
I don't know. We'll have to ask the world builder. I'll have to ask Katie if they can heal people with just his arm.
There'll be some dark magic going on. No. Yeah.
The definitive answer is no.
Not possible.
No necromancy mancers.
That is very illegal and outlawed. Persecuted severely.
How dare you even suggest it? Well, I like the way the story is going. I like the Marines and versus like the crew and how they kind of work together and how we kind of have like three people that are sort of all chiefs in a sense, like they're all decision makers. So it's easy for there to be opposing ideas of what each would do.
True. That's right. Good setup by Katie in
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Katie, what are your thoughts? Are you excited to be writing the next part?
Sure am. Looking forward to it.
Very good. So this was great parts of the story, and you guys make sure to go check out Britt's other story. You want to tease them a little bit of what Wolfheart is going to be about that they can find on?
It's my werewolf story that if you've been around, I've called the pack before, but it's something that I've had for a while, and I'm going to give sort of a piece of it. There's a lot of, I don't want to say cliffhangers, but it definitely moves at a good pace. So I thought it would be good to use on the Vela, and there is kind of 3 parts to it. So I'm just going to do kind of the first part and wrap that up and see if people are interested in continuing on to read. So yeah, werewolf.
Werewolf. So our 2 options, just to make it clear, you can either go. We can go and attack the Spanish some more because we've done some damage. We think we've got a good chance. Or we can turn and run and trust our speed to get us further away. And you can find those options will be up on our webpage, www.brewandink.com, or you can also find it at brewandinkpodcast.com. And they'll be up as a little 24-hour short poll on Instagram and Facebook and those kind of places until we find a better social media platform for putting polls up. But until then, as always, we want to tell you guys to raise that glass to inspiration and stay inspired, guys.